one of the things that always strikes me when I hear this music is that it if you you can hear it as a conversation. It's always many voices interacting, and and I'm always fascinated about what's the dominant, or that is to say the predominant uh, theme. So is it the lowest note as it keeps returning down to the bottom? Is that the, or is it the highest note, or is it, sort of finding what the voices are and the interplay of voices? And it seems to me that the piano arrangement really gives us an opportunity to look at that a little more clearly. Do you find that in your arrangements?
I do very much, and you kind of hit the nail exactly on the head, because even the excerpt that I just played from Prelude 4, as you said, contains at least 3 different levels, which are interwoven into the texture of the arpeggio, which spans 2 octaves. And the other interesting aspect of Bach's writing is that he never really establishes a downbeat without having some kind of a counterweight. So as long as we're talking about this, I'm just going to do a little bit of analysis exactly in the terms you just mentioned, Lali. There are at least 3, it's kind of like a Japanese, painting. We have the background, we have the foreground, or the art of Ikebana. There are 3 elements. So the bass, as you said, is punctuating the first beat of every measure. And then the very top note, which occurs in this case right after the bass, and our ears are programmed really to be more keenly receiving higher notes of whatever we hear. So that second note being so high up immediately sounds to our ears like a beginning, from which then there is a descent. So that's our second element. And usually in music, even in Chopin and the others, you usually hear the bass and the top note as the most defining aspects of the layers. So the top layer is clearly descending here, while the bottom bass stays the same. And of course, then most of Bach's keyboard or other instrumental works, at points where the bass actually changes, is when really dramatic things are supposed to be happening. And that gives you the clues to a harmonic change, obviously. But the entire arpeggio cascades down. And then in each measure, the top voice reinforces this movement of gentle kind of falling down. Now, our inner voices, really, you could probably find 3 more layers in there. I hope you can hear this. I'm trying to emphasize offbeat notes, which almost make it sound like a bossa nova, a Latin kind of jazz rhythm. It's not too far-fetched. And so I'm hoping you could hear that even within that middle layer, you could outline a chord, you could outline 3 different voices, and then the next part has a change where the bass is now going to move down, whereas the top note is going to stay the same. the reasons that I wasn't tempted to do that, because I discovered that this chord is very much present, as I'm sure you know, having played this, in every movement of the suite. For example, the Allemand starts with this chord. And the Courant very playful, right? Then we have the Sarabande, of course, obvious. Then my favorite, the minuets, is just, I love what he does with the minor one. So the first minuet in major starts also with the chord, including the little trill concept between B and A natural. So ending the phrase with this pattern. But I love the other minuet where he puts it in minor and then he goes backwards from the B flat to the G. And that harmony to me sounds very romantic, very basic, very romantic in a sense of the music that, rock music, somebody who is self-taught and pianist and writing a pop song could have written. But he has the pattern backwards in there. And what I find absolutely unbelievable is that in all of his pieces, he has written so much, yet he managed to have time and find time for something like this, which had to be intentional. And of course, the big question with Bach is, how could he possibly have done everything and make all of these pieces intentionally? And of course, he probably didn't. It was just channeled through him somehow in a completely awesome way. But the preponderance of these patterns and the sense of humor that sometimes one can find in reading them is just really brings a completely entire dimension of one's appreciation and understanding of his language, which is why I think it's so important to try to really take a look and understand the patterns and the language of any composer. But with Bach, it's really 4 or 5 note units that one needs to learn to discern and look at, and it takes very little practice.